To take a foreign country's property by force was, by common sense, an extremely dangerous action. Even without taking the consequences into account, Philip simply did not have the military strength to take on an entire country at this current moment. But the kingdom should see the Sorcerer's kingdom as its enemy. After all, a significant portion of its own citizens was killed in the war. It would be strange to not view them as enemies. If that's the case, wouldn't it be a brilliant move to steal from an enemy? That way, Philip would be able to earn the support of the kingdom's ruling class, and perhaps there was even a chance he would be promoted to a higher rank in light of his contributions. Not bad. Isn't this a great idea? As the cherry on top, he could also sell the grain that was taken from the Sorcerer's kingdom. This is like killing 3 birds with 1 stone. A plan that was so perfect it could not be improved upon. But, how will I rob them of the grain? Should I discuss it with Hilma and hire mercenaries? No, that's no good. Mercenaries don't have a sense of honor. Only idiots would leave a trail behind that could be traced back to them and be used as blackmail material. Following that logic, only his own soldiers could work. He called them soldiers, but in actuality, they would just be a few armed villagers. He had considered forming a unit with trained soldiers instead of villagers who could only do farm work. Paying said soldiers with the grain that they would seize would be an excellent option. But still, marching straight into the Sorcerer's kingdom's territories would be dangerous. Philip's domain was some distance away from the Sorcerer's kingdom, so the cost of a marching army wasn't something that he could just shrug off. No, wait, didn't he talk about some of the Sorcerer's kingdom's caravans passing through his lands? What if I attacked those? Was Philip alone enough to take on such large caravans? There was a limit to the number of villagers he could mobilize, but an overwhelming numerical superiority, enough to make the enemy surrender without any resistance, was absolutely necessary. Are you two free to have a chat? There's a matter that I would like to discuss with you all. We are. What's this thing? It's something good. Philip moved towards the pair and proudly began to explain his impeccable plan. What the hell, he should have said sorry at the very least. Wayne scoffed after saying goodbye to Philip. The garment that was now stained with beer used to be his father's, and was quite old in both texture and design, making it quite a rare item. He had originally planned to show up to formal social gatherings with that garment, but now he would have to make preparations all over again. At the end of the day, the aristocracy was nothing more than a bunch of creatures whose eyes could not see past one's appearances. Clothing was naturally a part of the game, so what had just happened was absolutely unacceptable. But the truth was that Wayne was at the bottom of the upper-class society, so what good could have come from having some nice clothes? On the contrary, this shabby garment could signify the owner's weakness, and was therefore very useful for someone who wishes to be under the protection of their superiors. An outfit like this was a must-have for him to play the role of a weak nobleman on the stage that is a salon. So until he takes on the role of another character, he was under his care. That was why it was even more unbearable than usual to see it sullied. That is true. A voice beside him chimed in, prompting Wayne to turn to look at its source. Enough, that's enough. His voice turned somber along with the atmosphere surrounding him. Had Philip stood witness to this change, he would have been shocked speechless. Wayne was never the extroverted type, he just plain disliked conversing with other people. To do so he would have to create layers upon layers of facades, as he desperately attempted to pretend he was the extroverted and effusive type. Sorry dude, I really can't handle that kind of a guise, so you had to take care of most of it. Igor had switched from his previous personality too. He now spoke in an unrefined manner using language that none of the nobility would dare to be caught speaking. No need, if you're really sorry, go practice a few of those pleasantries. Lower level nobility like us have to put in real effort to appease those at the top. Life's just getting more and more difficult. I thought that once we inherited the barony we'd be able to join the racket of the aristocracy. Shameless flattery and ingratiation, just those 2 things alone annoyed the shit out of me. Fipt, what are you talking about? Peasants have to deal with the same shit. Never mind who has it worse, everybody who's working under somebody has to be a bootlicker of sorts. And that's why I never wanted to grow up. Man, I miss the days when we were carefree enough to swing sticks around and pretend to be dragon slayers. There's no going back, so don't think about it. Anyways, just learn to flatter others. That brainlet seems to be a good candidate to practice on, right? Even if we fuck it up, our losses would be small. To noblemen of the higher echelon or those with more experience in life, basically those who had seen it all, nothing could satisfy them unless it was made to perfection. That was why they had to gain experience every time they had a chance. For real. Well, the next time we meet him I'll try extra hard to put on a face. Yeah, that'll do, that'll do. No one dislikes pleasantries. If someone you're talking to is annoyed at you, it just means that your ability to hold a conversation isn't there yet. Igor, I know this is hard. I'll make up for your flaws and you can make up for mine, that was our deal, but you can't just stop trying to overcome your own weaknesses because of that. It's not like we'll be with each other forever. Though Wayne might be more intelligent than the average person, he was completely outmatched in terms of athleticism. Igor was the complete opposite. If they were of the same type, perhaps they would have been competitors instead. It was for this reason they were grateful for the fact that neither of them thought of each other that way. It was unusual for neighboring lords to be friendly with each other, but since they were the third and fourth sons of their family, they weren't indoctrinated with animosity from the past. That was why they were so close. Most importantly, they had chemistry. Is that so? So, what about what we discussed with him? Absolutely terrible. Wayne did not hesitate for a second before answering his friend's question. For someone like him to be at the helm of the faction was just far too dangerous of a situation. But, wasn't that guy easily manipulated? That's true. This faction was, frankly speaking, a garbage dump. Its members were only in it to capitalize on their status as noblemen, and had absolutely no interest in developing their lands. Like a child with an iron sword, they abused their windfall authority. They had accomplished nothing whatsoever, yet were overconfident enough to believe they were omnipotent. These people were beyond saving. Even someone like Wayne could understand that he was just a completely ordinary nobleman, yet they couldn't. The faction was full of that kind of people. It was safe to say that because of this, the faction had a huge problem. The Sorcerer's Kingdom storing grain in the capital is a disturbing development because they theoretically have complete control over its market price. They'll definitely raise the prices due to our bad harvest this year. What's even more terrifying is the fact that the nobles who are optimistic about such a blatant trap and have switched their farmlands to only grow cash crops aren't the minority. Their mentality is that even if anything bad were to happen, they could get through a famine by importing grain from the Sorcerer's Kingdom, even if the price is a bit higher. A lot of landed nobles in this faction had this mentality. Despite his attempts to subtly hint at the perils of doing so, their attitudes clearly demonstrated their belief that they alone would not be affected by it. They were determined to put their plans into action. We lost a great amount of our labor force in that war. It's easy to see that they're fixated on the short-term profits based off of how they're distributing their remaining workforce alone. To let go of petty gains and instead focus on long-term profits should have been common sense for those at the top of the hierarchy. So to even think of robbing a Sorcerer's Kingdom's caravan of grain is evidence that he's got brain damage. Surely no one is stupid enough to not understand that attacking a caravan that's flying the Sorcerer's Kingdom's flag would be treated as a declaration of war and would result in serious retribution. Even if he's this. Hold up. Were we being deceived? It was certainly possible that they were being set up, and he just couldn't figure out what that man's goal was. Perhaps it wasn't such a bad choice to accept his proposal after all. No, aren't you overthinking? It's probably because he was really that much of an idiot that he didn't consider the potential consequences of all, while he was coming up with that plan. Hey now, Wayne smiled bitterly. To not consider the consequences of attacking those wagons at all, can an idiot of that magnitude really exist? Well, if you put it that way. At any rate, there was no plausible way that a noble without common sense would be chosen to inherit his family's title, hence, Philip must have had a goal. What could his goal be? It's best if we consult Signius, right? No, don't tell her. Helma Signius, the woman who did everything in her power to establish this faction. It was rumored that she was a lover of a certain earl, but the formation of this faction would not have benefited said earl in any shape or form. And so, the origin of her overly plentiful funds and wide connections remained a mystery. It was probably an organization, not an individual, that was behind the woman. By the simple process of elimination, one could easily arrive at which organization would have had such capabilities. The Eight Fingers. The crime syndicate controlling the kingdom's underground society. In that case, Helma was probably someone who could be readily discarded, like a mannequin. No, Wayne's intuition told him. His few conversations with her told him that she was definitely not some simple sacrificial pawn. In fact, it was more than likely that she was one of the higher-ups of the organization. To have someone like her embedded in the faction was worrying to say the least. Although some nobles had the power to covertly form pacts with the crime syndicate, Wayne did not want to get entangled with such illegal organizations himself. It was precisely because they didn't think too highly of themselves that they would want to take advantage of her whilst maintaining a smooth operation. Why? Looks like you're thinking about something that I won't be able to grasp again, but isn't it about time that you tell me what's going on? Even I know that saying yes to that guy will get us into trouble in the future. We're about to attack a Sorcerer's Kingdom's caravan in your territory, you know. That bony bastard is definitely not gonna just let it slide. There's no way that that guy's not losing his head after this, and yours might not stay connected to your neck for long either. Igor was completely correct, but Wayne had an idea. He had agreed to the proposal with a full understanding of the risks involved. Perhaps that is that idiot's plan, to make us his scapegoats and pocket the stolen goods for himself. How about we go along with his plan? We'll be patrolling our own territories and will just so happen to stumble upon a group of bandits, the group that was responsible for the attack on the Sorcerer's Kingdom's caravan. After that, we'll kill them all. It's crucial that we alone are responsible for taking care of them.